Are you a horseman that has maybe had an accident with a horse, or you even, fallen off your own horse, and when you get back in the saddle, fear just grips you, and try as you might, it's like you just can't seem to let it go and have that confidence back? Or maybe you didn't quite have that confidence and you want to get it? Well, today's episode is actually called From Fear to Miracle. And I'm going to share with you an amazing experience that I had. And this is a true story that will show you that there's really some other possibilities about out there for releasing that fear and being that amazing rider that you really desire. So, hey, everybody, I want to welcome you. My name is CJ Gilbert, and you're watching Hang Out with CJ. And this show is all about horses and about law of attraction. And I want to inspire you and touch you and move you to be the best you can be with your horse. Have that amazing relationship. And some of the conversations we're going to have might be outside of the box. And sometimes that's where we got to go to create something different, something new, right? So my name is CJ Gilbert, and I've been around horses all my life. I grew up on a working ranch. I worked at a equine research facility. I studied horses or animal science in college. I mean, I've been around horses, trust me. And I've been an animal communicator since I was a child. So over the years, I would say it started back in about 1998. I got a thoroughbred mare who had some lameness issues. And for you non-horsey people, that means she was walking really stiffly, and somebody would say she was walking on eggs. And what it did is it turned into this mission, this passion to figure out how I could help this horse. And my journey has led me to alternative therapies and different energy techniques. And as my horse improved, other people noticed, and it turned into a business. And my practice started in 1998, I believe it is. Quite a while. But anyway, and then over the years, I started to notice that horsemen, there was something that was missing with them and their horses, and they didn't always quite know how to pinpoint it. And the traditional riding instructors, I mean, had many, they work with your aids and your connection with your horse, but the one of the pieces that could be missing is what's going on inside you, your emotions, your feelings. And so I developed a program. It's called Horse and Rider Reconnected. So I offer clinics. I come in person and work with you and your fellow horsemen, and we do different exercises and energy work. And then I also can offer coaching online. So there's different ways that you can access this service. So we'll do a little housekeeping. And so I want to let you know that down below, you can make comments. And I'd love to hear where you're watching from. I want to give a shout out. We've had people from all over the world, Canada, oh my gosh, Minnesota, out east. I'm in the USA. And so thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I'm hoping that, my intention is that this inspires you. So again, my name is CJ Gilbert, and I'm broadcasting live from my farm in the beautiful Okooch Mountains. We're nestled right here in the Okooch Mountains of Cazenovia, Wisconsin, USA. So today's topic is kind of, it's going to be unusual, and I've shared this a few times, and I thought, I need to do it more, to show people that there's other ways and there's other possibilities. So so today's topic is From Fear to Miracle. And I'd like to give you a little background about my own riding experience. Like I said, I grew up with horses. I've worked with horses. There's always been horses in the pasture. But I've had this fear when I would get in the saddle. And on the ground, no problem. I could handle them, do all kinds of different things with them. But when I got in the saddle, there would be this fear. And I didn't quite know why I had this, because I hadn't gotten hurt up until this point. it's just like, where did this develop from? So here's a tip. When you have something that's bothering you, and it could be a fear, it could even be something else that you feel like it's limiting you, you can ask this question. And the question I asked is, where did this originate? What was the point when this started? When did I create this belief about having fear in the saddle? And I just sat quiet with myself and allow that to percolate and see what comes up. And what came up for me was back when I lived out west in Montana. Um, I think I was around, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, somewhere around there. We went to a rodeo, and one of the horses broke its leg. Now, in those days, they shot it. That's what they did. And so I developed this fear because I didn't understand what was going on. I developed this fear that, number one, it wasn't safe for horses when they're being ridden. And number two, it's not safe for a rider either. And so you can imagine how that can really restrict you if you got those beliefs, right? And I thought, wow, okay, so here I am now. What do I want to choose to believe? Well, that's what they did in those days, and things are different now. When an animal or a horse, gets injured like that, they do have a lot of different, we've come so far in medicine and even with alternative therapies to help our animals. And so I've created a new belief, but I still had a little bit, some fear in the saddle. So I would say this is about 11 years ago. And a friend of mine offered to take my horses up in northern Wisconsin. And she said, her and her friend, they're going to work with my horses a little bit. And then I was to come up and spend a whole week. And we were going to ride every day. We were going to do trail riding. And I thought, wow, that'd be fun. And I said, okay, I'm going to take her up on it. Thank you. And so I got up there and we saddled up my mare and we headed out. And I had a blast. I mean, I just had so much fun. It was a beautiful day. We saw incredible, birds and just fun stuff. And a great group of people that I was with too. Very, very kind and fun-loving, people. And so anyway, and I'm not sure how long we were gone. It seemed like it was a long time as your bottom starts to get sore, right? But anyway, so we got towards the end of the trail ride, and this guy on a four-wheeler came out of the blue. And he's talking with our head, kind of trail boss guy. And I got kind of up close to him a little bit. And I said, listen, I haven't been on this mare that much. Would you mind waiting and until we get back, to the barn? And he's like, oh, yeah. I'll wait. No problem, ma'am. And I thought, okay, good. So we started heading down the hill, and we weren't that far from the barn to, where the end of our trail ride would be. And I'm turning around, and my girlfriend is off her horse coming down the hill, and she's yelling at me and kind of at the whole group, but she's looking at me, and I'm like, what the heck is she trying to, what is she saying? And all of a sudden, my horse went one direction and I went the other direction. And I landed on gravel. Some people, not all people will do this, but when you fall off a horse, sometimes they say go into fetal position to protect yourself and protect your head because you don't know where those hooves are. And so that's kind of what I did, is I curled up into a ball. And then next thing I know, people were, hovering around me, and I hurt. Oh my gosh, I really hurt. And I did not know where my horse was. They said, don't worry, we'll catch up with her, because her and another horse took off. And I found out later that another lady fell off her horse, and she landed in a grass, a nice plushy area. So she bounced back pretty fast. But me, I landed on gravel and right on my tailbone. And It took me a while. I went through some different therapies to help me get back, because my torso was twisted, my pelvis, because I went into a fetal position. And not to mention my fear. It's like, whoa, I had a little bit of fear before, but now it's like, holy moly, I got fear. So came back home. My girlfriend brought my horses home, but then she says, you know what, I'm going to take them to my place because you really need to get back on. And I thought, no, I don't. She says, yes, you really need to get back on the horse. So as I started to feel better, she would ask me to come over and, ride. And what we would do is put the horse on a lunge line, and then she'd have me, do just basic walk. That's all we would do, just walk. And I went into fetal position. I went forward. I weaved my fingers in her mane, and I gripped that horse. I don't even know how that horse could move. I was so gripped on her. And I don't even know how she could breathe, because I was just clamped right down. And we would go around a few times, and I'm like, I'm done, I want to get off. And she's like, okay, that's good, you really did good. And then she'd call me and say, okay, now you're gonna come over? And I said, no, I'm doing dishes. I mean, I wouldn't make up excuses. Well, I couldn't come over. And so that went on. I don't remember. That went on for a week or 2 weeks. I can't remember. And one day I was by myself. I remember everybody, my family, they were all at school and, work. So I was home alone, and I was feeling sorry for myself. And I went out into my pasture, and I had a conversation with the divine. And I let loose. I was angry. I was ticked off. Here I was so worried, because I was a mother. I have 2 boys, that I wouldn't be able to take care of them. And I let loose everything that I was angry about. And I'm shaking my finger and all kinds of stuff. And that, I'm not sure how long that went on. It might have been 5 or 6 minutes. Who knows? But I mean, I just got it off my chest and just let loose, right? And as I was done, I heard a voice. Now, this voice was not inside my head. You know how you hear those little voices say, oh, you should do this, or you should do that, whatever, or you might get inspiration, some kind of an intuitive message. That's inside your head. This was outside of my head. And I heard this voice, and the voice said, so what do you want? And it's interesting when I think back that I didn't look around the bushes or, to see if somebody was playing a prank on me. I didn't. I just yelled back, and I said, I want to ride like Reiner Klimka. He's won, I don't know, 8 or 9 Olympic gold medals in dressage. And I don't care if he's dead. I want to ride like him. And the voice spoke again, and the voice said, so be it. And I saw, because I was looking up at the sky, I saw this ball. The best way I could describe it is like light coming down out of the sky. And I wasn't afraid. I just kept looking at it going, And it came down out of the sky. It came and hit me on top of the head. And I felt like ripples going through my body. Just like, and then the most incredible joy came over me. I was just like elated. And I'm like, wow. And I don't even think I said thank you, which I'll say thank you right now. But anyway, it just like, whoa. So I ran to the house. I called up my girlfriend, and I said, are you doing anything? And she says, no, why? And she said, what's up? And I said, well, I'd like to come over and ride. And she says, oh, well, then I'll tack up your horse. And I said, no, I want to do it. I'll get her out and tack her up. So we got her out, and I'm singing a song, and I'm grooming the horse, and I'm putting on her saddle and her bridle, and I'm getting ready to go. And she's looking at me like, okay, why are you in such a good mood? And I said, well, I just am, you know. And she said, well, okay, let's put her on the lunge line. I said, sure, put that, you know, okay. So we put her on the lunge line. I got on her. I started walking her. Then I started trotting her. And I was ready to go into the canter. And she said, wait a minute. And she stops the horse. She says, what are you doing? And I'm kind of giggling. I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? She says, you changed. I said, what do you mean I changed? She says, well, before you were all hunched over and, you know, and I said, oh, yeah, you're like fetal position. She says, yeah. And she says, now you're upright. What happened? And I'm just like, oh, whatever, you know. And then she got this funny look on her face. She looks at me and she says, oh, my gosh. Do you know you look like that dead guy that won all those Olympic gold medals in dressage? And I busted out laughing. She said, what happened to you? And I said, well, let me fix the camera here. I said, I'm not quite sure what happened, to tell you the truth. I said, well, let me, you know, untack the horse and put her away, and I'll share with you. So I shared with her, and totally changed my riding in, you know, what, matter of 10 minutes. So then I thought, I'd like to test this a little bit further. And what I did is I had both my mares were getting bred, and my kids were taking riding lessons at the stable. And so I thought, you know, I asked my neighbor, I said, would you like to come along? Because her kids were taking riding lessons along with mine. I said, how about if we ride? And she said, I haven't ridden since I was 16, you know. And I said, well, I'd like to try something with you if you're open to it, because I shared her, you know, my experience. And she said, okay, yeah, I'll try it. And so I kind of did some things with her to prepare her. And we started taking riding lessons, and we would do different things. I mean, we do a little bit of dressage, we do a little bit of jumping, we'd even do poles and barrels and cross-country jump. I mean, we did a variety of things. It's really a fun place to take lessons. And I remember before I started, my husband says, oh, I talked to the stable owner, because he's a farrier, and he's been working at this stable for quite a while. And so he says, I told her she might have to baby you because, you know, you fell off your horse, and you got some big fear going on. And I said, oh, okay, whatever, you know. And I hadn't shared with him my experience because, you know, it's pretty far out there. And it's like, so I've been picking and choosing who I would share it with. So anyway, I don't remember if it was after a month or you know, a couple months we've been taking some lessons, and my husband comes up to me and he says, I had an interesting comment from the stable owner about you. And I said, oh, okay, what? And well, she said you got one of the best seats she's ever seen, and didn't understand what I meant about babying you. Which, you know, as a horseman is a high compliment. So I want to tell you, or interject right now, you're watching Hang Out with CJ show, and I'm CJ Gilbert. I'm your host. And I hope you know, write some comments down below and any questions you might have, and also any you know, shows or topics that you would like to see me talk about. And so anyway, today I'm talking about going from fear to a miracle. So, you know, it's amazing, but I think sometimes when we get fueled with that passion and we want that change, then you know, that universe, that spirit, that energy just says, all right, your wish is my command. And for, you know, for what I experienced, I don't think I'm special. I just think that I made a demand, and the universe, spirit, divine, God, whatever you want to call it, said, okay, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna take care of this for you. We're gonna answer you. And So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to sometimes, get a little irate. I think spirit likes it when we're honest. We're in our integrity, and we really are truthful about how we're feeling and what's going on, and say, you know what, I don't, this doesn't work for me anymore. And that's what I was being. I was being very honest and truthful and just letting it go. And said, you know what, I don't like this, because I wanted to enjoy riding. I wanted that love back. I didn't like having fear have a hold of me. And the universe answered, wow, hands down, and pretty fast. So what I've done is, through a few select people, is started to work with a couple processes so that you too could take on because what I was asking for was actually to take on those qualities of that rider that I admire. I still admire him. And we all have access to it, and we have it within us, but sometimes we don't even know how to, it's almost foreign to us. So, when when you look at a rider that you admire, and one of them that I also admire is my dad. My dad was incredible around horses. He had this ease and calmness. I never saw him get upset. I never saw him hit a horse. I never saw him nothing. He had the most incredible patience and calmness. And he told me that when we were working with my Appaloosa, and we were teaching it to halter break, and lead and stand tight and all those little, basic things, and picking up their legs and stuff. And he said, patience, just have patience. And that has stuck with me. So when you can ask for those qualities of those particular riders to be birthed in you, and have you express those, and have you to be that type of rider. I gave a riding clinic a few years ago, and they were riders that had fear levels, or fear issues, concerns and they were all different levels. Some were extreme to just a little bit. And one of the things that I asked is that whoever they were working with, so if they a trainer they're working with, or maybe they're a riding instructor or whatever, I wanted that person there. And so they agreed to it. And the end of the first day, the riding and she did the training and riding instructor, she came up to me and she said, I realized I was missing something. And she said, I've been so focused on the aids and the horse, I realized I was missing out on what was going on inside that rider, their emotions. And she said, I saw you tap into that and help them address it and release it fast. And every one of those riders took on confidence immediately. Once we addressed it, and we gave a different possibility that could show up, and we just stepped into that. We actually played a game, and we counted how many breakthroughs they would go through. And it was fun. So it doesn't have to take years and years and years to develop some of these things. It can actually happen in an instant. It's just having your mind open to those other possibilities. And that's where the Horse and Rider Reconnective Clinics is I help you, work through those. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was quite an experience for myself, and I hope that it helped you, and you can see that there are other possibilities with your riding. And you don't have to have, fear issues to take the Horse and Rider Reconnective or even work with me for coaching. It's just if you want something more. You want more connection with your horse, you want better communication, whatever it is you want, those desires and dreams, and that's where I take a stand for you and help hold that space for you to step into. So again, you're watching Hang Out with CJ show. And my name is CJ Gilbert. I'm your host, and I invite you again to write comments and say hello and maybe where you're watching from. And I'd also like to invite you, if you'd like to join my Google community circle. It's called Hang Out with CJ, and you don't have to have horses to join if you're a non-horsey person, but maybe you're a pet owner, because I want to share these episodes, but also other uplifting maybe videos, or we can even have conversations, and maybe something that you want to manifest in your life or attract to you, and that's a community for that support. So I also want to tell you what next week's episode is going to be about, and I think you'll really enjoy this. It's how to communicate with your pet or your horse using a picture. So again, my name is CJ Gilbert, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. And I'm living proof that, your writing can improve, and it can improve in pretty fast. And I also have many students who the same thing. I'll share with you, we got a few more minutes here yet before the show ends. And I was working with a gal who, when she was looking for a new horse, she actually fell off of a horse that she was trying out. And it left her, kind of had some fear and nervousness. And so I gave her a riding lesson, and it took her a while to get in the saddle and get going. And so one of the things I do is ask, if there's something you want to work on, and otherwise maybe we pick a particular exercise to do. And so this instance, we chose to do turn on the haunches, and that's where the haunches kind of march in place and the front end comes around, and you do a 180. And so she said, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can do that. And I said, okay, show me. So to the left, it was just beautiful. She just swing right around. And I said, okay, now go to the right. And to the right, she'd go a little bit, stop, go a little bit, stop. So it was like this, stop, start, stop. And finally, she got around. And I said to her, why was the left better than the right? And she looks at me, she goes, well, horses have a good side and a bad side. I said, okay. So you decided that the left is good and the right is bad? And she said, well, yeah, a riding instructor told me that. Some horses are usually good to the left and they're not so good to the right. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Okay. I said, would you be willing to consider that he could be good both ways? She said, oh, really? I said, not saying that she's right or wrong, but just would you consider? She says, yeah, I could consider that. I said, okay. And then I asked her, I could see her right leg was hiked way up. And I said, did you have an injury? And she said, yes, I did. I was in a car accident. And she said, and it takes a long time to heal. And she kind of talked about that. And I said, I said, well, would you be interested, willing to consider that you could be healed now? She's kind of went, what? I said, just consider it. She's like, oh, I guess I could consider that. And I said, okay. And could you consider that, going around to the right could be just as good as going to the left? And she says, yeah, I could consider that. So she did it to the right, and she had a couple of glitches at first, and then we worked through it, and the next thing I know, she went right around. And her right leg, as she was willing to consider, dropped down. That tightness and holding it up, she dropped it down. And so then she was level on both sides. So that was really cool. It was almost like she grew 2 inches on her right side. So sometimes when we have some things that we're working through with our horse, it's not necessarily the horse. It's some belief or that, we took on from somebody else. But also, and totally understandable, when you have an injury, you want to protect yourself. But sometimes You still can protect yourself, but then allow yourself to be open to a different possibility. And in her instance, her willingness to be open to that new possibility, she created a bridge from where she was to trying something different. And what the results were is that she was able to do the turn on the forehand both ways beautifully. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. My name is CJ Gilbert, and this is called Hang Out with CJ, and we talk about horses and all kinds of things. So next week's episode is, again, how to communicate with your pet with just using a picture. And you might want to have a current photograph of your pet so that you can try this exercise with me, and also right after the show. So again, thanks so much for joining me and sharing this half hour with me. I really appreciate you. And also, I'd like to take a moment to thank all the veterans. Today is Veterans Day, and I want to thank you for those who have served and those who are serving now. I appreciate you and appreciate the freedom that you have given us. So, happy trails.